We found a handwritten tombstone across the street from the oldest church in the county. A church which also happens to hold a pretty crazy haunted legend, which isn't something we normally focus on at Forgotten Lines, but I can't really leave it out. Who was Henry Fay? In this video, we're going to find out. And at the same time, I'm going to show you a few tricks to overcoming some of the most challenging family history hurdles that a lot of people face. My name is James, and I've been a genealogist now for over 10 years. I enjoy using the techniques I've learned to help bring people's stories to light again who might not have anyone else to tell them. And in this case today, we're going to be discussing Mr. Henry Fay. This cemetery is one that locals, like myself and Cassidy here, are very familiar with. Cassidy is one of the team here at Forgotten Lines, one of the founding members. And a few months ago, I told him, hey, let's grab a camera and go check out Bethbirei Cemetery because we've been around it our whole lives. So let's go take a closer look and see if anything jumps out at us. Henry was born in Bedford County, Tennessee, to Henderson Fay and Margaret Story in 1861. Now, I can't talk about Mr. Fay without delving into some uncomfortable topics surrounding his childhood. So in this video, I will need you to understand that I am trying to use the most sensitive terminology that I can. But if a word bothers you, I am preemptively apologizing because I feel it's important for people to know this process. Henry Fay was buried at a church that is supposedly haunted. Whether that fact is true is up for debate. But one certainty is that he was born into slavery. Here's the thing. Genealogy for African Americans is not always easy. There is a known brick wall for most at the 1870 census. Brick wall is a term that we use to identify a period in somebody's family history that you just can't get past. It is a dead stop to the next generation. It's very hard to get past, so we call those brick walls. That's because 1870 was the first census after the end of slavery. In 1860, enslaved people were not listed by name on the federal census. So how do you trace your ancestors beyond a time before they were recognized as citizens? I'm going to use Henry Fay to show you some techniques that genealogists and family historians can use. When researching someone or a relative from their gravestone, we generally work backwards from death. Henry's death certificate says he died from pneumonia in 1921. But his parents are unknown according to his wife, Florence, who is the informant for the undertaker. Because when undertakers had to fill out a death certificate, they needed an informant, and they still do. The person who is there to give all of the information that's available on a death certificate. And apparently Florence did not really know anything about Henry's parents. So this is where we have to flesh out a tree for more information confirmation. They had a daughter, Lillian, who died at only 5 years old while Henry was still alive. And Henry served as the informant and can confirm that he was born in Bedford County. So we search for Henry Fay, born in 1861 in Bedford County. And our best result is in 1870 with parents Henderson and Margaret. Now, to save time for this video, I'll say that I was able to match his siblings with dates and parentage to confirm that these were his parents. We have found our guy in 1870, Bedford County, Tennessee, District 7. Now what? How can we go just a little farther back? Something to consider is that when people were freed, they often took the last name of the family they lived with. First names tended to transfer through their lives, but last names were rarely attributed. And in this case, we need to look for Fay on the 1860 Federal Slave Schedule. This is a record that lists slaveholders and how many they had. It will list age, gender, and color of enslaved people. In this case, there was only one Fay who owned slaves in 1860 in District 7 of Bedford County, Tennessee. Now, District 7 of the schedule is only 6 pages long. 6 pages is not very much to look through. And one thing that we can do is match names of people who were in 1870 with some names of people who were in 1860. So you're looking for names of families who were listed as black in 1870 with names of owners in 1860 in the same area. When starting the research for this video, I originally only intended to give Henry's story. But before we started filming, I received some comments on my Gladys Culbertson video asking for some tips to help with African American ancestry. So I didn't really have a lot of time to go farther back for Henry, but I will tell you what my next steps would have been. Once you think you've found the slave owner, contact the county where they lived. Try to obtain the property deed and probate records. Oftentimes, these will list their slaves by first name. It's possible that Henry's dad could be mentioned and traced from those records. There are plenty of videos available from fantastic genealogists available to help with these challenges, so I'll leave it there. But just know, it can be done.
Henry Fay had married Florence Jones in 1897 in Marshall County. His family had mostly moved to Kentucky. He and Florence had 11 kids. I have 3, and I can't imagine 11.
I have 3. 11 sounds like 7,000.
So Milton Fay was Henry's youngest son. He was born in 1921, which was also the year that Henry passed away. And it was 1 year after the last census he would have been on. Milton lived all the way to 2009. That seems pretty recent.
That was not that long ago.
To have a parent that was born into slavery. I guess when I think about it, I think of that being a very long time ago.
I mean, Milton, like you said, died in 2009. That was less than 20 years ago.
Right.
I like to find things around the people that we can talk about.
Right.
Because that is part of their story. Mm-hmm. And in Henry's case, he was buried at a cemetery of a church that is supposedly haunted. Kitty, get. Can't you tell I'm being angry with you? I'm angry. Go on.
These are disciplinary scritches.
Go on, Kitty. Go away, Kitty. I'm trying to film an episode here, Kitty. Tired of you getting in the way, Kitty. Okay. As the church itself is the Presbyterian church. It's still active. It's not abandoned or anything. It's still very active. And then there is the main cemetery around the church, the graveyard. Right. And then across the street, there's a smaller one. Did you ever know that there was another cemetery past that one across the street that you had to go down a beaten path to? Did you know that was there?
We never ventured very far back there. We always heard that it was, the Indian burial ground. We didn't go too far back.
What jumped out at you while we were walking around? Like when we made our way back there, what were your thoughts?
There's not a whole lot of stones back there, but one of the things that, caught our eyes was the stones that seemed to have been hand-drawn.
Yeah.
Or handmade.
I think Henry was the first one that jumped out at us as being handwritten
right
into the cement.
Yeah, and to be honest, those are probably the only ones I think I've ever seen that were hand cast and written in with, I'm guessing, some type of tool.
Yeah, I think it was like a stick, probably a metal stick or something like that they used to write into the wet cement. Oh, yeah. Like while we were out there, you can in older cemeteries, you can even go and you can kind of crouch down and look at the ground and see dips, and those dips are typically grave sites. Like they're typically graves where the pine box the person was buried in has rotted and fallen and collapsed in on itself, and then the topsoil has sunk and things like that. And you could see that a lot out there.
Yeah, that's one thing I had never really noticed at any graveyard until you pointed it out. Mm-hmm. And then when I really started looking, there are several.
Yeah.
It's quite eerie.
Yeah, it really is. But when we went, do you remember seeing a glove hanging from a tree like 20 feet in the air?
Weird. We found a glove. Where's the hand?
So you went back out there.
I went back out there today. Like I said, I've got some family that's there, and it's their birthdays, and we was taking flowers and everything.
Oh, wow.
So I walked across the road, and I looked up, and that glove is still hanging there by the same thread.
How did it get there?
I'm just wondering by all the storms and everything we've had recently, how it's still there.
Oh man, we got sideways rain this morning. It was like gale force winds today. How is that glove just still? Okay, well, all right.
The glove of Bethbirei.
If you know anything about the glove of Bethbirei, comment below. Let us know what you know about it.
I bet it's haunted.
If it was you. So, okay, Cassidy, what stories? Because I feel like the legend of this church varies based on which cousin you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you heard as the legend of Bethbirei Presbyterian Church?
Well, I've heard at least 3.
Okay.
One being the infamous Bible.
Explain that to our lovely viewers, what the Bible is, because this is the main legend of the church.
Well, this one does have a few iterations. So, if you break in and steal the Bible, you die. Mm-hmm. And then the Bible will reanimate back into the church. Mm-hmm. Same one that was stolen will just show back up. The second one, I believe, is the longer that the Bible is out of the church, the heavier it gets until you can't pick it up.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, I've heard that one too. Yeah. That like by the time you get to the parking lot, it's like a lead weight kind of thing.
So that's the Bible stories I've heard. Another one being a little girl was playing around in the cemetery after church services, and a headstone had fallen on her, and she had passed away from those injuries, and her ghost is still out there. Some people have seen it, not me personally, but a guy I know.
I even heard one time when I was a kid, a friend of mine said that his cousin saw a giant Sasquatch creature in the woods coming through, and I don't know. There's so many.
I have heard the creature talk.
Have you? Okay,
Yes.
So that wasn't isolated. That was
a lot.
Golly, like it's crazy how much these local legends just blow up, and it's fun too. Like
they blew up enough to now they keep the doors chained.
Yes. Myself and Joey, the other guy in Forgotten Lines, when we were younger, 12, 13, 14, we rode our bikes across Bethbirei all the time. This was before they had it chained up and locked up. It was still just a open church. And we went in one time, and out of curiosity, I mean, it was unlocked. It wasn't like we had to hack it or anything like that. So we wandered in, and I went up to the podium at the preacher's desk, and there wasn't a Bible. But I will say that they had some glass cases up front that had clippings of the legends of the Bible, which I thought was really cool. But when you first walk in, you see this gigantic Last Supper picture, and there's like this mural on the wall, and it's super cool. Now, I will say it was very eerie in there. But, I mean, the church was built in 1812 or whatever. So it's
1811.
Excuse me. 1811. It was really cool. But no, we didn't find the Bible. There was a bunch of hymnals and stuff. Then a few years later, I guess enough people had gone in there looking for the Bible that they finally said, enough's enough. We're putting bars on the doors. We're putting bars on the windows. We're locking everything up. And I get that. I can understand that.
We hope you like hearing about Henry Fay, and if you'd like to see more stories of the people we find, please like, subscribe, and tell us what you think about it in the comments.